Week 4 is upon us. San Francisco 49ers hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Only one loss between these teams. It's crossover time in Week 4 right now.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to another Locked On Podcast Network crossover episode, Week 4. It is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the San Francisco 49ers. I am the host of Locked On 49ers, Brian Peacock, along with Tony Wiggins, the host of Locked On Jaguars. We're going to be breaking down the biggest storylines, key matchups, and the paths to victory for each team in Week 4, which should be a really good one. This episode, as all crossover episodes are on the Locked On Network, brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Wig, it's been a little bit. How you doing, man? I'm excited for this one, and I'm excited to hear about what the biggest storyline is right now in Jacksonville heading into a Week 4 matchup against the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, glad to be here doing this with you, Peacock. You're like one of those close friends that I never talk to, never see you. We ain't got no business talking to each other because you out there and I'm over here. But whenever we do, it's always a good time. I can give you some storylines. For Jacksonville, it's about we. It's about us. It's not even about the opponent. And I know that sounds a little arrogant, but the Jacksonville Jaguars should be 3-0. And the only reason they're not 3-0 is because of the mistakes that they made. And even in the 2 games that they won, they made enough mistakes that it could have gone the other way. And I think when they focus on cleaning up the things that they need to clean up, pre-snap penalties, they're one of the top 2 in the league. Interceptions, they're one of the top 3 or 4 in the league. Drop passes, they're number 1 in the league. If they stop hurting themselves and shooting themselves in the foot, they might have a chance to show how really good they can be on one Sunday. And then once that standard is set, then use that as the standard that they need to meet. But we're not complaining because in the past, the Jaguars would have lost those 2 games that they won this year. This year, they're finding a way to win, and I think that's going to end up being a part of their DNA and contribute greatly to them being able to get better over time.
Cleaning things up, that's an interesting way to put it with the Jacksonville Jaguars, the way things have gone in recent history for that franchise, and maybe overlooked the custodial duties of a head coach, right? And you know what it's like. You're at the barbershop. You got to sweep up the hair between each client, right? You can't just let that stuff build up on the floor. You got to keep things clean. So what are the early returns now with Liam Cohen and how this franchise is going in a new regime in Jacksonville?
Well, I like it. And I like it because they seem to be master communicators and not just with the media. You know, it always makes things easier for us when folks are transparent. But usually folks aren't transparent when they feel like they're vulnerable. They don't feel like they're vulnerable. They tell you exactly what they're going to do. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So the messaging is, I'm going to tell you the truth, and then I'm going to explain it if it works, and then I'm going to explain it if it doesn't work. That's just the way it is. It was always this need to know basis. And from what I've been able to gather from people in the building, that didn't just extend to the media. It also extended with the players. And they played like that in the past. They were not able to take things from practice and transfer them to the game, to the field on Sundays. And I always use this analogy. I said, when you go see Chris Brown in concert, the real work happened in rehearsal. He ain't gonna mess up at concert, but you have no idea what they did when they first started and how many times people slipped and fell. The Jaguars were slipping and falling on Sundays, and you can't do that because when you do that, that actually tells us more about who you have been during the week. Now they come out, they want to run the ball, they run the ball. They want to score fast, they have to, they do that. They have a short memory when it comes to things, they do that. And the defense is playing like one of the 2 or 3 best defenses in the league. They look a lot like Denver looked last year. And what they're doing is those guys seem like they understand exactly what they're supposed to do. So that tells me that maybe the communication difference that we see in dealing with the team is the same communication difference that the players are dealing with, and it makes it easier for them to get their job done because they know exactly what is expected of them.
I want to talk about more about that defense and that running game that you mentioned there. But we got to get into the biggest storyline right now with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
And it's a massive story. And the 49ers injury bug has been hitting them hard, has been for years. And now it is maybe their best player, Nick Bosa, who's done for the year with a torn ACL, and how the 49ers rally and replace him. And it's not going to be a singular replacement, even if they went to the trade market, which I think they're going to have to wait a few weeks. Croc and I just did a podcast talking about some of the trade potential candidates for the 49ers. None of those players are going to show up this week. They're going to probably call somebody up from the practice squad, and it's going to have to be an in-house replacement in the short term while, the Niners reevaluate things, see how it looks here at defensive end without Nick Bosa on the entire defense, which is a new look unit under Robert Saleh, who's done a phenomenal job so far. You're developing a bunch of young players on the defensive side of the ball as well. And that all just gets a lot more difficult without your star player that you can lean on in Nick Bosa. And really the big thing coming into this year for the 49ers, Wig, was you could kind of see how a team could get around the growing pains of starting a rookie defensive end, 2 rookie defensive tackles working in. They drafted a 3rd round linebacker who actually puts a little pressure, I think, on D. Winters, who's starting to look phenomenal next to Fred Warner now in the middle of that defense. And then you have another 5th, 6th round guy starting at safety in Marcus Siegel. And then you got a late 3rd round nickel corner in Upton Stout, who's been tested a lot by opposing teams, came up with a big play last week in the win against the division rival Arizona Cardinals. So there's a lot of development happening on that side of the ball. But when you have stalwarts like Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, that transition gets a lot easier. And so now I think it starts to get a lot more difficult when you have to really lean on these guys already 3-4 weeks into their rookie seasons and expect more out of them instead of being pleasantly surprised by what they give you. And that starts to get a little bit more difficult up front for the 49ers right now. So how's it going to look without Nick Bosa? They came out okay. He missed most of the game last week for a full game and for a full season now. What's that going to look like minus Nick Bosa? I'm curious to find out myself.
Yeah, me too. The thing that concerns me about the 49ers, though, is that if the Jaguars go in thinking, okay, they're banged up, and they always say you don't do it, but subconsciously, when you look down at that injury list and you see all of those big names, I would be warning them this, and I'm going to ask you this as an outsider. Even though there's a lot of star players that aren't going to be in the game, whether it's Kittle, and of course you just mentioned Bosa, and maybe Fred Warner's a little bit different because of the leadership element, but there's no Deebo Samuel anymore. Is this a situation where the 49ers aren't hurt as bad by losing those star players because they're not a team that just lines up star players and caters things to what they do? They run a system. They will scheme you up. That is why they were able to replace Christian McCaffrey last year and have a running back who was still getting chunks of yards at 4+ yards a carry, because they're going to scheme up and run. They actually seem like, to me, is this true that they go out and draft guys that fit who they are, not only just from a talent perspective, but from a psyche perspective? And that's why it doesn't seem like they fall that far off when they miss those star players.
And I think they are a well-coached football team, offensively, defensively, where you look at, Robert Saleh coming in, doing a great job. And you look at linebackers coaches and you look at, offensive line coaches. I think that's really important, beyond even the head coach, for a team to be able to get through injuries and be able to, lose a running back like Christian McCaffrey. Look, Kyle Shanahan offenses are going to be able to run the football. I mean, to be honest with you, they ran the ball better last year without Christian McCaffrey than they have so far this year. And I think a lot of it is because, teams are just keying on Christian McCaffrey with everybody else they're missing on the offensive side of the ball. And I think the best example of that was Ricky Pearsall, who a lot of people thought the 49ers overdrafted in the 1st round. And then you start to see him now in his 2nd year healthy in the 49ers scheme. And look, there's not a lot of other places to throw the ball. And so he's going to see a lot of targets, but he's been up to the challenge. And the dude can get open. He's smart. He's a gym rat. He understands what he has to do. And he's got pure hands. And so if you can get open and catch the football, Kyle Shanahan can use you, and he's been using Ricky Pearsall a lot so far this year.
No doubt about it. It's one of those things I'm looking forward to, too. We're going to talk about it, I guess, in segment 2 when we get to these key matchups, because he may have something to do with one of my key matchups. I got a couple of them.
Key matchups. I like it. That is a professional tease from a professional radio guy and podcast host in Tony Wiggins. Let's talk more matchups for the San Francisco 49ers and the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 4 next. This episode of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Jaguars brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff in week 4 with a can't-miss offer. And right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It's the most bonus dollars I've ever seen FanDuel give away for new customers, and you can get involved for week 4, whether you want to bet on the Niners or the Jags in week 4. They got week 18 lines already up at FanDuel. So however you like to bet, FanDuel has it for you. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick and easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. When you think game day, you might not think Wayfair, but you should, because Wayfair is the best kept secret for incredible and affordable game day finds. Wayfair has everything you need to get your space ready for the season. It's all about where you watch the game, how it feels, the experience of watching the game, whether you're at a venue and your venue might be your living room or tailgating outdoors, cheering for your favorite team. And man, Wayfair has unique finds and options for every budget, everything you can think of for your space and your football watching area and your personal venue. So you can show off your team spirit without overspending. Delivery free, fast, and hassle-free, which is a lifesaver when you need something in time for kickoff. Outdoor essentials, TV stands, serveware. Wayfair has it all in one place. Wayfair is your trusted destination for all things game day, from coolers and grills to recliners and slow cookers. Shop, save, and score today at wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, Wig, you teased a little matchup there, so I'm going to ask you the question. When Ricky Pearsall and, getting DeMarcus Robinson back for the 49ers or after suspension, we'll see who else is out there in a banged-up unit for the 49ers to throw to, see who's actually throwing the ball for the San Francisco 49ers, if Brock Purdy can make his way back or if it's going to be Mac Jones, who's done a nice job filling in, but now he's even banged up as well. And so who is Ricky Pearsall going to line up against on Sunday, and what kind of matchup is that going to be?
Well, that's a real good question. I hope it's Travis Hunter, because Ricky has a little shiftiness to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Ladd McConkey. And I ain't mentioning just like all the white receivers, right? But they kind of play the same way, right? They get in and out of those breaks. They do those little sneaky things. I think that works better against Tyson Campbell than it does against Travis Hunter. And because Travis is shifty, Travis also is a wide receiver by trade. If you did not know, he can do both. So I think sometimes when he guards receivers, he kind of knows exactly all their little tricks. He did a real good job last week on Nico Collins, who presented a different challenge because of his size. So I do think getting San Francisco off the field on third down is going to be critical. The defense has been able to do that. On the few drives that they haven't been able to do that, is because they allowed people to catch the ball right where the first down marker is. They play man off, and they give you a little zone look, and they're not stuck man-to-man on a guy on the line of scrimmage. So that's going to be something. I think who the quarterback is going to determine that, because one of the things that I believe is another critical area is we got two really good defensive ends here too, two edge rushers, and Josh Hines-Allen and Travon Walker. The bootleg action and the play action, the reverse out bootleg stuff, a few years, the Jaguars, not the last time they played here the last time they played, but the time before that, I remember, and this was in 2017 when we had Jacksonville, they schemed the Jaguars up so bad out there, it wasn't even funny. And it was all the bootlegging and all of the moving and all of the holding the defensive ends on the outside and guys couldn't commit down the line of scrimmage. You know, they always tell you when you're the backside defensive end, just run straight down the line of scrimmage. Well, guess what? You do that and that quarterback keeps the ball. Now you got this little waggle running in this action with one of those tight ends running back the other way. And it's a nightmare and it's demoralizing. So depending on who the quarterback is, that's the key matchup. If it's Mac Jones, he's a bit of a statue, and I expect those defensive ends to eat lunch. If it's not Mac Jones, if it's Brock Purdy, that's going to be a totally different thing because Brock has a little bit of a getaway car and he throws the ball very well when he does the rolling out. All of that's going to be critical because that creates situations for scramble routes. And that's where the start-stop motion of Ricky Pearsall can really bother a guy like Tyson Campbell, whereas I think with Travis Hunter, I think he eats that alive.
I remember that 2017 game. That was one of those.
Yeah.
That was one of those Jimmy G, like early Jimmy G era games where you finally got to see Kyle Shanahan cook, and you're like, "Oh wow,
he was
why
cooking."
is this all of us? This is a football team. The Niners couldn't win a game in 2017, and all of a sudden they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, and you're like, "Oh wow, Kyle Shanahan can actually cook when he has a professional quarterback in there." This almost looks too easy for the 49ers, and Jimmy G got himself $30 million a year after playing 5 games at the end of that year.
And I'm going to tell you how frustrating that was. And people don't realize this. The Jaguars had a good team that year. They went to the AFC Championship game and were beating the Patriots by 13 points or something like that in the fourth quarter. That's how good that team was. And they went out there and got schemed up. And I remember Malik Jackson saying, "Oh, we'll be fine. They just schemed us up." Jalen Ramsey said, "Oh, we'll be fine. They just schemed us up." But that's a real thing. You could get schemed up by a team like this. And this is just what Shanahan does. So that's one of my concerns. Now, on the flip side, we've been able to run the ball a lot and run it well. And those rookie defensive tackles, I think for you guys on the opposite, that should be your first concern. Your first concern is stopping the run. Because if you don't, I'm going to tell you right now, Liam Cohen is going to keep running.
Is that that running game, and is something I wanted to ask you about anyway, and as it pertains to, you know, whatever fantasy football, the Jaguars running the ball, playing well, week 4, whatever it is. Etienne felt like he was the guy on the way out. I thought he was going to get traded like the Cowboys or something in the offseason, and all of a sudden they're like, no, we're actually going to trade the guy who everyone thought was going to start over him and Tank Bigsby. What went into that? Is it just more the scheme and the style, or is this a different Travis Etienne we're seeing this year?
There's a few things that went into it. They drafted 2 running backs, Bashaw Tootin, they drafted, and he is a really, really good player, man. He's just one of those dudes that adapted well, and his skill set fit the National Football League. He was the fastest running back at the combine. He just had to learn how to hold on to the football, and they really got him to do that. And then LaQuint Allen, who was the quintessential third down back, one of the best third down backs in the league, who's very, very good at pass protection. So you look up and you got these dudes that aren't making that much money. They're day 3 picks. And they actually, scheme-wise, fit better than the power running back of Tank Bigsby. And Tank's a good player. But you got these 2 young guys and you want to get them on the field. I actually think LaQuint Allen might be he's their running back 3, and he's their best pass protector, and probably the guy that knows where to sit down at because he's made a killing being a third down back in college. Bashaw he just has this extra little pop about him, not only with his speed, but his vision. And then, of course, with Etienne, what you get is you just get a dude that just knows how to play. He's a pro. He's in the last year of his deal. He's playing on the 5th-year option this year. And we're going to have to see if he gets a contract extension, but so far, so good. They're using him the way Alvin Kamara was used. We'll go back and we'll date it. We'll talk about Brian Westbrook. There are guys like that. That's what he's doing. And he's been able to get chunk yards, and he's been able to put his head down now that he's not getting hit faster than any running back in NFL history as soon as he touches the ball. He's been able to churn out those 3 and 4 yards and get that little body lean. And when you can do that, man, it makes it so good that the Jaguars can get 1st and goal from the 4, and they can actually run it 3 straight times and score. They could not do that in the past.
You know, we get excited about passing yards and touchdowns and highlights, and it always starts with the run, and it starts up front. And it's true with these 2 teams as it is true with just about every matchup that I talk about on this channel, Wig. I actually think the 49ers are more up to the challenge as a run defending unit than they are a pass defending unit minus Nick Bosa, because they've shown an ability. And I mean, immediately the returns have been there for Robert Saleh coming home and coaching this unit. I talked about he's a linebacker whisperer. Anybody can coach up Fred Warner, but seeing the jump that D Winters has made into year 3 of his career, and he's been phenomenal. And these guys fly around. But I've got a stat for you here for the 49ers, who have this season allowed only a half a yard before contact per attempt, which is 4th best in the NFL. And last year, teams were averaging 1.5 yards before contact of a defender, which was 24th in the league. So they've gone from a bottom third unit defending the run in 2024 to one of the top 5 or 10 teams in the league defending the run this year. And one thing that first round pick Mykel Williams was good at from week 1, day 1, was being able to set the edge. He is a power player, even though it's kind of linear and long build. He's got leverage and he's got strength in his hands. He's walking Paris Johnson Jr., who's a really good player for the Cardinals, back into Kyler Murray's lap. He's got some work to do as a pass rusher, but that's gotten better week to week as well. They have enough, I think, size up front, and really everybody they drafted. They spent 5 straight picks on the defensive side of the ball because Robert Saleh came in and said, this unit's not good enough. They're better tackling. They're better containing runners. They've been a lot better unit. Nick Bosa is a loss there, and he's a good run defender as well. But the pass rush, the pressure is where I'm worried about, where they're going to come up with more pressure on Trevor Lawrence without Nick Bosa, more than I'm worried about the running game. But you got to get the third down first, Wig. And there's no doubt about that against both of these football teams, because Kyle Shanahan is going to try to run the football, which is another key for me here as we start looking a little bit more as paths to victory, drawing the picture of what it might look like with the 49ers or a Jaguars win in week 4 next. This episode of Locked On 49ers and Locked On Jaguars brought to you by Game Time. You want to get to the game time? You want to get to the game? You got to have Game Time in your pocket. And I don't know how you can be a sports fan or someone who wants to go see concerts, wants to go see comedy shows, and not just have Game Time already ready to go, downloaded and in your pocket. Because with the NFL season back, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. So between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout, it can be super frustrating, and that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price, plus all fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. And man, like I said, you got to have Game Time in your pocket. And if you're ever going to want to go see an event, you got to check Game Time first and get some phenomenal last-minute deals, too, on sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, you name it. Just download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. So one of the aspects, Wig, and you kind of started to paint the picture there in the last segment about the 49ers offense and the keys to victory and how this goes and defending the run. So far this season, especially with all the injuries the 49ers have had, they've really leaned on their guy, Christian McCaffrey. He's got the most touches, 77 touches on offense, the most in the NFL right now. A lot of those out of the backfield as a receiver. But you mentioned the motion and getting guys moving and the play action and the bootlegs. We've seen it multiple times now. Use check last week. It was Luke Farrell in week 2, I believe it was, with just a walk-in touchdown. It's easy because you got 10 guys on the opposing defense that fight on that play action fake, and all of a sudden Mac Jones says, nope, I'm going to take this and bootleg around, and the entire defense is like, oh yeah, there's 10 other guys on this team, not just Christian McCaffrey. We're all over here to tackle 23, and this guy's got an easy touchdown. Kyle Shanahan really good at pulling those strings, and it's the gravity that Christian McCaffrey brings, even when he's not getting the ball. So you got to stay home, and teams have done a really good job actually against the 49ers. They're averaging like 3.5 yards per carry right now. They want that to improve, but it's not just throwing to Ricky Pearsall. It's also throwing to Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. So Can the Jaguars still defend the run is going to be a key one here, while also staying at home and covering Ricky Pearsall, covering Demarcus Robinson. We'll see what he looks like now for the first time in a regular season game in a 49ers uniform, and covering Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield.
Yeah, they can. It's because of their defense and their team speed. First of all, the world, one team at a time, is about to see how good Trayvon Walker is. I know Aiden Hutchinson's great, and most people believe that he should have been picked ahead of Trayvon Walker. I'm going to tell you something. I think this is the stat. If it's not, it's really close. You know how many sacks Trayvon has in his last 23 games? I'm just going to tell you to guess the number.
Oh, I think he had 10 sacks last year, right? So
he has 18 sacks in his last 23 games. So for all the people, this is the second year in a row he had 10 plus sacks. And then he is a game plan wrecker and destroyer with all the little dirty work. The thing, coaches, not fans, but coaches watch that tape. Mike Tomlin said he's an absolute 44 is the problem. He's the game wrecker. That was 2 years ago. So people don't necessarily understand exactly how good Trayvon Walker really is. And when you talked about Michael Williams, you're right. Georgia doesn't teach those dudes how to pass rush. Nolan Smith didn't come into the league rushing the pass. They teach people to play gap and hold and to make sure that draw plays don't work, scrambling quarterbacks don't work. And then they let the other people in the back do all the heavy lifting when it comes to tackling people in the flat. But you're going to see how good he is. Josh Allen is very, very good, leads the league. This duo leads the league in pressures. Eric Armstead is coming home. He is finally back inside where he needs to be instead of playing the big end position, which I don't know what the hell they were thinking about last year, doing that full time, because we know he did a little bit of both in San Francisco, but he's coming back and he's playing better at the 3 technique. And then Devon Hamilton, I'm going to tell you who's playing well. Devin Lloyd, former first-round pick Devin Lloyd, who did not get his 5th-year option picked up. Devin Lloyd has been lights out. And a lot of people comped him to Fred Warner because they were these hybrid players in college where they played a little safety, played a little Mike, played a little outside. Devin Lloyd has finally found a home in Anthony Campanilla's defense that has allowed him to stand next to Foye Oluokun and be a really, really good player. So everybody does their job. Everybody stays home. Jordan Lewis has been great as an addition from Dallas. He's playing like an all-pro. They tackle well in the open field. So that's why I'm not too afraid about Christian McCaffrey, although you should be always afraid about Christian McCaffrey. It really comes down to me of who plays offensively. When you flip it over to the other side, Liam Cohen, coach with the Rams, is very, very familiar with what they're doing, has a lot of respect for Kyle. And I know he will have a few things up his sleeve when it comes to from his time in LA, when it comes to trying to dial some things up. So to me, it's going to be about execution. I said execution. Liam Cohen talked today about patience, that the 49ers don't give you a whole bunch of chunk plays, but they make you execute 10, 12 play drives, and they sit and wait on that mistake. And they usually take advantage of it. I think that's going to be the key from my side of it. What do you see the path to victory for you guys?
I think you kind of laid a lot of it out there. That's going to be really important, is who makes the mistakes and who don't. And I think it's kind of too easy sometimes to be like, oh, whoever wins the turnover battle.
Yeah.
The Jaguars, though, this is number 1 against number 32. The 49ers haven't picked off a pass in 10 games, going back to last year. It's been almost a calendar year since the 49ers picked off a sneaking pass. The Jacksonville Jaguars, well, and if you have 0, you're 32 in the NFL in interceptions, right? The Jaguars are number 1 with 7 picks so far this season. And Mac Jones had an ugly interception last week. Brock Purdy threw the ball to the other team too many times in week 1. Niners came out ahead and were victorious in the first 3 weeks of the season. But if the Jacksonville Jaguars are out here picking off passes and the Niners are turning the ball over and not executing like you just laid out, then that is easily the path for a victory for the Jaguars and a loss to the 49ers. And the 49ers, without an extra pass rusher and Nick Bosa, need to be able to pressure Trevor Lawrence into some of those mistakes. And so for the 49ers, you can't lose that turnover battle. Start throwing the ball to the other team, and you need to start creating some of your own plays. Can they get after the quarterback minus Nick Bosa is my big question. I think they're going to be okay against the run. And again, this isn't as much of a path to victory as I'm just kind of throwing out questions, and I'm just a little bit curious. What's this going to look like? Does the Nick Bosa injury, does it turn out to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, or an entire bale of hay that breaks the camel's back as far as the injuries that the 49ers have dealt with this year? But if you're able to get it going on the ground, play Kyle Shanahan football, we know he can scheme open some plays in the passing game, and you're not making mistakes, and the defense is able to stop the run and get into some of those third down situations where Robert Saleh has been a little bit more creative, blitzing, showing some looks, some simulated pressures, bringing, some guys on one side, dropping some guys back. He's got the turbo package going where they're trying to throw Yetur Gross-Matos on the inside and Michael Williams on the inside. Can you still find some ways to get after the quarterback? Then that'll be the path to victory for the San Francisco 49ers in week 4 as they lick their wounds and just try to figure out what kind of football team they're going to be, which is an odd thing to say about a team that's 3-0. You usually have a better idea of what a team is, but with the injuries the 49ers have dealt with, it's not quite that football team right now, Wig, but it's going to be fun. I can't wait to see what this new version of the Jacksonville Jaguars looks like Sunday.
Yeah, it can look pretty at times, but they have had 3 gritty games, and I think that's where we're going to park until they tell me otherwise. They're going to get in these gritty 23-17 games that come down to the last drive and having to make a stop. And I think that's the way they're going to win until they figure it all out. But a win is a win, and I'll take it. And I think the Jags are going to go to 3-1 after Sunday.
Ooh, okay. And the Niners are actually favored by 3.5 right now at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a tough one because I think it is going to be a grinded out game. It's been some ugly wins so far this year for the 49ers. I like the Niners to win. I don't know if I like them to win by a lot, and anything more than a field goal is hard to project right now. But I'm with you, man. This is going to be a grinded out game for the Niners and the Jaguars in week 4, which means the team that makes the fewest mistakes is probably the team that's going to win this one.
If I'm y'all, I'm being honest with you. I'm trying to help you out. Look, you need to get some money in your pocket before Christmas. Go to FanDuel and take the money line. Don't take no points. Take the Jaguars. Last I checked, it was plus 145. Go and take Jaguars money line. I'm telling you, they're going to beat San Francisco Sunday.
Oh, man. I don't know. It's tough to bet against that Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh combination. They do great things together, Wig, no matter who's out there on the field for them. It's going to be fun Sunday, and it's always fun chatting with you, Wig. Had a great time, as I knew I would. Everybody, make sure you're subbed up to Locked On Jaguars and Locked On 49ers, bringing you this content daily right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I can see you got one more thing.
Little plug. Me and Tyler Rowland, we roll out Locked On NFL twice a day. The madman, he'll wake you up in the morning like a double shot of espresso. And see this? This is the barbershop. We let loose at the barbershop, man, and we use the help of local experts from around our network to really, really keep you in tune with what's going on. Because local experts like us, man, we got the pulse. We know what the pulse is of the team more than national people. So get it all here on Locked On.
Dude, you cannot sleep on the national coverage on the Locked On Podcast Network, and especially that Friday show, right?
Yeah.
The barbershop with my guy, Matt Williamson.
Matt Williamson is my boy. That's right.
NFL with Williamson every day. Peacock and Williamson as well, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So plenty of content for you to subscribe to on YouTube and everywhere you listen to your podcasts. And Locked On 49ers, Locked On Jags, back with you tomorrow. Talk to you then.